Welcome, everyone, to BPM RealTalk show. My name is Mark Khabe, and also I will be hosting this show today. So, the guest we have today on show has got tremendous years of experience in process improvement, but also, especially in the retail sectors. So, with a tremendous amount of background in those two elements, there's a significant amount of success that our guest has actually achieved. So, without further ado, I guess let's welcome Amine Ayad, who has played a pivotal role actually in designing and sustaining effective processes that drive the excellence in retail industry. So, Amine, welcome to the show. And before I actually go further and dig into your expertise and experience, it would be really great to start with just a little bit more about yourself, your background, and also a little bit about your current role that you're performing at Academy Outdoor Sports. So that would be a fantastic start with that.
Well, thank you, Mark, and thank you all listening today. It's a pleasure to be with all of you. And about my background, when I graduated from Oklahoma State University as a structural engineer, I never thought I will be in the retail industry. But it is fascinating how life and the journey of life take you. And it all started when the Home Depot, which is, as some of you may know, one of the key home improvement retailers in the world, certainly here in the United States, they were looking for talent from outside the organization to join the organization, but they were looking at people with process improvement, Six Sigma background, so that they can join the organization. And it happened. And from there, I just loved the industry, loved implementing the principles of process improvement in the retail sector. The rest is history. After working for 6 years with the Home Depot, I moved to Sears Holdings, managing their central operation in Ohio State in the United States.
Wow.
And from there, Walmart recruited me after we took market share from them,
Yeah.
but their internal processes were so amazing that they figured out who. And I had another 6 fantastic years with them, and both in Ohio and Michigan, in their headquarters in Arkansas. And after that, there was an opportunity to build an industrial engineering department for Bed Bath and Beyond. So I spent 4 years with them. And the past 4 years, I have been with Academy Sports and Outdoors here in Texas, in the United States. From an educational background, as I mentioned, got my undergraduate degree from Oklahoma State University, and then I pursued a doctorate degree in organizational effectiveness. So it's that combination between organizational effectiveness, process improvement, and the retail. Really, I done retail, you could say, almost every function, whether it is in the field or in the corporate office, whether it's engineering, operations, merchandising, and even organizational effectiveness in terms of training. So this is really a quick, summary about myself. While I'm enjoying this journey, I also published 4 books, numerous articles in peer-reviewed journal, and hopefully today we'll be sharing a lot of those insights with all of you, and we'll take it from there. Back to you, Mark.
Incredible. No, thank you. I mean, and look up. It's amazing to see how I guess, your career has evolved over the last good, couple of decades, from being a structural engineer all the way to going through all the different parts and different types of retail, right? So, the Home Depot to Walmart to Bed Bath and Beyond, and I'm sure they all had very different functional business and commercial models that you actually dealt with. They're quite fascinating. So exciting to learn a lot more about this. So why don't we probably start with a simple, real basic thing, because you've done all these different types of retail types of different retail sectors, doctorate in organizational effectiveness, structural engineering background, fascinating. So just from all those years of experience, if you can share some key process improvement principles. And look, I think what we've seen across the last 20 years, there are some fundamental process improvement principles that remain same across different industries. But as you deep dive into particular sectors, there are peculiarities. So over your 20 or 30 odd years of experience, have you come across any particular process improvement principles that you found are a lot more effective for retail industry? And if you can talk about how they have probably contributed to enhancing the overall retail experience.
It's a great question, Mark, and you're absolutely correct. At the end of the day, the principles of process improvement remain very similar, remain almost the same. However, methodologies differ, and how you approach it also differ. Yeah, you also mentioned something very interesting when you mentioned different sectors within the retail industry. And this is very true. And it's probably the first insight that I would give, that what works in one situation may not work in the other situation. The questions may be the same, but the answers are certainly different. My favorite approach that worked for me in all these situations, in all these organizations, was the Lean Six Sigma approach.
Okay.
And really, the Lean Six Sigma, because it gives you an opportunity to identify the level of uncertainty and the level of data requirements. Obviously, the more data you need, the more statistical tools you need to identify root cause of the issues for what you're trying to solve for, the more you are moving towards that Six Sigma world. And the more in many cases in retail organizations, root cause of the problems are so obvious and it doesn't require that deep analysis. So you take that lean approach with the lean, uh, tools that's available without having to go into that very well structured Six Sigma approach. So in a summary, it all depends on the situation and what you're trying to solve for. Thus, defining the business problem is pivotal,
Number one.
and that the mic approach, measuring it is pivotal. Figuring out the root cause to improve it is also very important, and implementing it, sustaining this implementation becomes as well, part of that success journey.
Okay. That makes sense. And it's interesting actually you say that because as I think we all have heard about this, and this rings true about if you spend 50% of time on figuring out what the problem is, you're already actually very close to the solution. Right? And that as you talked about, and I like the fact that you focused a lot upon defining the business problem, what exactly the problem at hand is, which will then really you can tailor made your methodology to reach the solution. That's uh, I would totally agree on that there. So if you look at this, throughout your implementation journey, like as you're deploying these methodologies, one of the major challenges a lot of our subscribers always ask us about how do we collaborate, and how do we approach the buy-in, how do we get the buy-in, and especially for, like, I'm looking at the retail industry, you've got this various types of stakeholders, right? So you've got field staff, then you've got corporate staff, then you've got like retail shop assistant staff, those type of individuals. Field staff being your warehouse administrator, logistics, supply chain. So it's quite a complex world. So how do you really have you probably can you share some experiences along those lines of how you have approached getting the buy-in and bringing that collaborative approach amongst all these different type of stakeholders when you are implementing this process improvement methodology that what you just talked about?
So another fascinating questions, and I will sound now like an HR of guy or a legal guy. I say it depends. So it depends, because how do you generate buy-in? It has to do with your history with the organization, your credibility with the organization, the culture of the organization. There are factors that you really need to think about. I will share with you and the audience today uh, a situation where I was new to the organization, new to the company, and got recruited from outside the organization, an organization that had leaders who were after that same position for
Right.
so many years, and they have like 20 years of experience. How on earth they brought somebody from outside? And the task was is to actually achieve process improvement because processes were not where they needed to be in this particular situation. So my first approach in this case is, and the first question I have, how do I generate the trust so that we can work with the team in full collaboration? It's easy to go and say I'm the boss and let me show you what need to happen and there's what you're going to do, but
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. But then how do you generate the trust and how do you create that really quick? So one of the first thing I did in this case is I decided for the first 30 days I will just listen and learn,
Right.
and not just listen and learn, is being genuine about it and being really true about it. So for example, I told my boss and my wife, my regional my senior VP at that time, and my wife, if you need me, you call me at this number, which is the store number, because I'm going to that store and I don't want to be distracted while I'm talking to the people answering my cell phone.
Makes
So I
sense.
gave them my 100% undivided attention. And starting from the team member who is at the registers, cashing the people, and the stockers who are putting the merchandise on the shelf. And one of the feedback I got after the first couple of visits to a couple of those locations, where from the hourly team member, front end, as you say, oh, nobody comes and speaks with us. We really appreciate what you're doing.
Amazing.
And that created that, broke all these psychological barriers. I went to these stores not in my suit and ties. They
Yeah.
used to call people at my caliber, the suits arrived.
Suits
And I
right.
wanted to say Amin arrived, and not even my title or my educational background. In
Mm.
fact, I know on the screen here you see Dr. Amin, but in the organization, I just ask him, call me Amin, and that's who I am. And so breaking the psychological barrier, getting to know people at that level. Now, you take the other a group of people you also mentioned are the executive, the leaders on the field,
Yeah.
the people who would really report directly to me, and there were around 10 of them, three of which actually applied and got interviewed for the job. So I need also to build that trust with them. And the first technique that I did is to gather the team. Of course, after I walk with them, getting to know them at the personal level, I call what I call the assimilation of a new leader into the organization.
Yeah.
And in this case, what I have done is I said, listen, you guys, I'm new to you, and I don't know a fraction of what you know about this organization. I have no idea why the senior VP chose me, but I will promise you I will share all the questions with you and give you all the insights. And I'm going to leave this room and you discuss among yourself things that you really didn't like in the previous three leaders that you had in the past 3 years, without mentioning names. That's the behaviors and the things that you really did not like, things that you really need help with. And I'm leaving the room, have that conversation, we'll come back and we'll have a conversation around it. All these examples, and the examples could be so many, is just to give an idea that developing the trust and the respect are pivotal to getting the buy-in.
Mhm.
No involvement, no buy-in. So you need to involve people then to know what type of solutions they are thinking of and why. And of course, at the end, you do your own homework and you look at your leader. When I went to the leader in the office, now I'm putting my dollar signs and I'm putting my data and I'm putting my presentation all together. It's a different world.
Yeah.
And I got their trust by actually showing them the plan, the strategy, the execution, the timeline, the roadmap, the dollar signs, and
Yeah.
what we're trying to solve for.
Amazing. This is quite actually quite fascinating because this is probably the most talked about topic, to be honest. I mean, because as you know, when you're working as a team together, you can move mountains. When you actually segregated and not really working as a collaborative team, doesn't matter what the great strategy you might actually have in place, it just never gets executed well. But I really picked up some of the great points there about listen and learn, and you talked about and you literally walking the floors. I mean, it sounds very simple, but if you just walk the floors, you immediately have that connectivity with your frontline staff. And I like the being vulnerable with your team, right? About open and being vulnerable, saying, listen, I'm probably the person who knows the least amongst all of you here inside the business, and being vulnerable can really generate that trust very quickly. Really fantastic. Thank you for sharing that fascinating insights. And I think these are probably, I'm pretty sure you're going to receive few requests to learn more about this. And I'm not sure if that some of these things are published in your books. I would love to learn more about these things. But in interest of time, I'm sure you've got plenty of these things to actually share. But one of the things that we always want to also learn from our guest is like the top three challenges that they've experienced. If you had to pick the top three challenges in the retail industry that you experienced while implementing these process improvement initiatives, what would they be? I'm sure you have a huge list, but if you had to pick the top three, what would they be?
If I want to pick the top three, I would say number one would be organizational culture.
Right.
Culture eats a strategy for breakfast, dinner, and lunch all the time. So no matter what type of strategy and plan and the methodology you have, if the culture doesn't fit. And
Yeah.
really quick, when I first joined the Home Depot, for example, they gave us laptops,
Yeah.
and we're supposed to go to the stores. And my peers who joined, they took their laptops to the store. They went to a back room, and I left my laptop at the home, and I went to the floor with people and speak with them. So because the culture really resisted at that point, the whole idea, it was a clan culture.
Yeah.
And Bob Nardelli, the CEO, he did really amazing job. I know some of you may have controversial views about him, but at the end of the day, he wanted to create a culture of discipline, process improvement. And I knew that I'm facing two different cultures where the organization is. But you can't just jump to that future. You have to respect the existing culture, figure out how you are going to move forward within the existing culture towards a future. And just to oppose the culture or put down the existing culture just because now you'll be very lucky if the culture is already process improvement and they have the infrastructure for it and they have all the tools that's needed and the team members already certified and got the training. So culture is number one. Number two is really the team and the team knowledge. And you mentioned the collaboration with the team, so which is partly culture, but also having the right people at the right place and knowing what's is really needed from whether it's functional level, leadership level, or that strategic critical thinking level. Who's going to be doing what? So the team is also vital. And the third, are the resources available? Because you can't just think about unlimited resources. Organizations has resources and has constraint. So you need to figure out how to prioritize and get that buy-in that we spoke for around the priorities that you're putting forward. And the best way is alignment, is to align with organizational, strategies. I say culture, team and resources and alignment would be my top three.
Amazing. That's fantastic. So in your experience then, like across all these different organization, I'm sure you have achieved tons of success in your process improvement efforts. So how do you measure the success of your process improvement efforts, like beyond just your quantitative results, like the top line, bottom line? What
It's
else do you
um,
look at it when you look at how do you measure that?
it's fascinating. The question: how do you measure beyond what organizations, are made for
Yeah.
profitability and the top line and the bottom line? What do you do? And I always think about the intangible resources of the organization. I think about the brand name, I think about trust, I think about culture. So if I left a project, f- regardless of the profitability and what we contributed to the bottom line and the top line, with a little bit more of a culture of process improvement, a culture of excellence, then that's a very great outcome. And how do you measure that? Often I do that with follow up and surveys,
Okay.
anonymous surveys, meeting one on one, talking to people about it so that you see. In other words, almost every project, to your point, has a financial, quantifiable goal, problem you need to solve, and there are the byproducts. To
Yeah.
what degree we left this endeavor, we left this project, and there's more trust, there's more collaboration, there is all these elements that are pivotal to achieving success in the future.
Incredible. And it's funny because there was a somewhere there was statistics about the majority of the process improvement initiatives failed who were heavily focused and driven on cost indicators, like the cost savings, and they failed because that was their focus compared to what you talked about on how do we leave the legacy behind and how do we make this a business as usual and drive into the organization's DNA. And that in itself is a great success indicator of the process improvement. This is fantastic.
I mean, Mark, to your point, this is where I've seen the process improvement professionals uh, really get in that tough situation because they are brought to the organization to improve processes. They have a specific amount of time, and
Yeah.
the leaders want the results. Now, it takes courage and a lot of knowledge to explain to the decision maker the importance of what you just said. And it is not that process improvement initiative. I've heard it a lot. Six Sigma is not for retail; it's
Yeah.
for manufacturing. And what's really not seen is that at the end of the day, it is a process. And yes, retail has more people in involvement. Thus, you need that approach and you need these elements. To your point earlier in your question, absolutely, you people can reach out to me because in one of these papers, I really spoke about how to you navigate these elements as you achieve the results. It doesn't have to be either or. You
Yeah.
can do both. And
Nice.
there is a lot in both of my books that I published more recently. One of them, Success in the Retail Industry. There is a lot of these tips and information and real life situation that I shared that actually worked in the retail environment.
Incredible. So on that note, though, it's like the retail industry is evolving so rapidly, right? It's the e-commerce is rising at an incredible amount of pace. The business models are evolving as a result of that. Your bricks and mortars are actually becoming a thing of the past. The consumer behaviors are changing, how they want their shopping experience to be. So, but where process improvement principles, some of them are very old, archaic, traditional. How do you have you adapted those the strategies in order to stay ahead of the curve, I guess, to maintain that retail success?
Actually, you used the magic word right now, adaptability. We heard about the agile organization, we hear about maneuverability, we hear about adaptability, and it's all one of the same. But I would say one thing which always has, as a student of this business, no matter how many years of experience, I continue to learn, I continue to study these elements. What's fascinating is there are things in the buying and selling, in the people need and wants that hasn't changed since we became a human being.
True.
There are tools and infrastructure and technologies that have changed. I remember a time when, I mean, we see an old movie and how the bazaar and the marketplace is actually happening.
Yeah.
And then we went all the way into different store formats. Even before the internet there was that catalog,
Yeah,
And I remember some of you who are old enough may also remember how
of course.
before Christmas or for certain celebrations, you get a catalog and you choose what you want, and it get mailed to you.
Absolutely.
And it evolved, and now you fax your order, and it evolved, and now you use the internet, and evolved, and now you use your phone, and
Right.
it is just, however, it's still, you are as a consumer, you want to buy something, you're looking for value, and you're looking for service, you're looking for convenience. The fundamentals have not changed, even though the tools have changed greatly. So, how do you adapt? I will share with you one quick example for an organization that unfortunately could not survive, not because they didn't try to be adaptable, but they did not do um, eh, the whole excellence needed for the success. They did, when the big data became an issue, they did break the infrastructure and tools and analytics and visualization and all of these elements that are needed to extract insights to drive your action so that you succeed. And they invested money for that, but they did not invest enough to train people who
Absolutely.
didn't know how to access and benefit and use. So
Incredible.
they did not see adaptability as an end to end and as a, not just to bringing the technology, but also getting your team trained and qualified. And now you go and jump all the way to think about the team member of the future.
Yeah.
One of the, and I'm not sharing any secrets here, one of the most successful organizations in the world today, retail wise, is Walmart.
Yeah.
Walmart think about the industry 20 years down the road.
Yeah.
They have people, that's their sole job, is to think how's going to happen 20 years down the road. And they walk themselves backward and they say, oh my goodness, we need people who are educated. Guess what? They go and they create a whole program where you can get your education for free. So
Incredible.
it is that balance. I repeat that word again. I used earlier in one of the questions about having one foot in the present and one foot in the future. Deliver the immediate for the here and now for your customers, but at the same time, be ahead of the curve so that you are not surprised. In fact, the best way to predict the future is to make it happen and to be part of shaping out that future. And that's how great organization adapt and evolve, not way too ahead of of the world, but also knowing the trajectory of where things are happening and designing the organizational infrastructure and culture to face these challenges.
Incredible. I mean, you have an incredible insights into the whole process, but especially in the retail space there. And I think our subscribers, I'm pretty sure a number of them will reach out to you and want to probably dig into your expertise there. Uh, Unfortunately, today we are running out of time, and I would love to probably keep digging in more into some of your real challenges and real experiences. But look, thank you again for sharing all the insights on this really crucial topic. And in such a short space of time, we've really gathered lots of gold nuggets here, right from building internal capability to really stay ahead of the curve to listening and learning and walking the floors and being vulnerable to, how do you set up the culture and the team alignment and the resources. So it's been an incredible insights in last sort of 20, 25 minutes. Again, I really thank you for coming on the show and sharing all your insights. For our viewers, thank you for joining us today. And just to remain connected, make sure to subscribe to next episode of BPM Real Talk. We have lots of episodes coming up, exciting episodes coming up. Thank you again for being part of this incredible journey. So stay inspired, informed, and empowered. I mean, thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Mark. It's my pleasure.
Sure.